Only a few will remember, but there was a time when you had to scavenge through trash just like a rabbit raccoon to find some good manhwa. And it wasn't because there was a lot of bad ones, no, we just didn't have enough. Be that as it may, even if the traditional practice is rare nowadays in Korea, we still left with hundreds of old manhwas that, in addition to being a great contrast to what's released nowadays, it also have some of the best stories that are very entertaining. So let's go through the top 10 manhwa from before the invention of Webtoon. The Breaker is perhaps one of the most popular traditional manhwas, with its first season having 71 chapters and its second season, The Breaker New Waves, having 201 chapters. The Breaker starts with Chi-woon, our main characters, just moments after being bullied, which is really common. Unfortunately, he is the punching bag in his school. Until the day a new English teacher, Chung-woo, shows up at school. Chung-woo just witnessed Shi-yoon getting his ass kicked, but all the teacher does is make fun of the boy for being a coward, and that's why he's being constantly bullied. Shi-yoon keeps thinking about what the teacher said and decides to learn some martial arts to be able to defend himself, just like every kid after watching Karate Kid.
No, except boys and girls. Gender what?
On his way to the dojo, he sees the new teacher in a dark alley being confronted by some big guys for drinking and not paying. When he was ready to call the police, he sees that the big guys were the one that needed some help, cause the teacher just fucked him up. After several events that test Shi-woon's courage, he finally understands that there is only one way for him to get out of this life of suffering, and that is by confronting his bullies. For that, he needs to get stronger, and the best person to teach him will be Chung-woo. At first, Chung-woo isn't interested in helping the kid, he just wants to laze around and chase some girls. So, to change Chung-woo's mind, Chung-woo says he will only train him if he is capable of jumping from a bridge. To Chung-woo's surprise, Shin-woo jumps from a bridge. And that's how Shin-woo starts to train and enters a new underground world. A secret society of martial arts where each school functions as an organization that rules through the shadows, which is where the Breaker's main plot will revolve around, behind the organizational battles and Chung-woo's past. The Breaker is filled with incredible action scenes and martial arts, each with different specialties and effects, in addition to the mysteries that exist between each organization. But the Breaker doesn't focus just on action. It has a lot of humor, mainly driven by the interactions between Chung-woo and the world around him. Although it started in 2008, the manhwa still hasn't finished. It is still waiting for its third season, which starts this year, 2022. Wait a minute, this art is very similar to something I've seen. Yeah, that's because the same mangaka of Origin is right now doing Dr. Stone on Shonen Jump. Origin takes place in 2048, in a dystopian future, very similar to Blade Runner, where the technology has reached the point where robots are impossible to distinguish from humans. That's where we meet Origin, the first robot who tried to live among humans. Origin superficially understands human culture and behavior, but he suffers in his daily life to try to be ordinary. What humanity still doesn't know is that these robots exist and are infiltrated among humans. In addition to Origin, there are 8 other robots that live among humans. But unlike our protagonists, they don't share the same appreciation for living just like a human being. Each of them has a background and a reason to hate humanity and what they are. This then causes a rift between our main character and these 8 robots. The difference between wanting to live in peace and harmony and desire to be better than a human being. The manhwa is short, with only 84 chapters. Still, it is a great sci-fi, containing some deep questions and a shitload of action. No doubt, it's one of the best choices to venture in manhwa, and even influences our last one on the list. A Flame Inferno has a really different kind of plot when compared with the standard of a manga. but at the same time it uses several mechanisms and cliché already seen in the manga. It all starts with Ken, who is a great womanizer in addition to being the best student in his school, and with everything guaranteed from a bright and golden future. Until one day, while returning from a party, he finds two demons fighting. During this fight, he is injured. Incredibly, one of the demons, called Inferno, decides to fuse with the boy, ensuring that both of them can survive the fight. After the battle, Ken is introduced to this new world where demons are secretly surviving from consuming humans and are in a constant battle for territories and more cattle to feed. But what Ken didn't know was that during his battle, a girl named Chae-hee saw everything. Now he'll have to fight for his survival while trying to keep his secret. A Flame Inferno, although it has some great fight scenes and a lot of action, focuses mostly on the relationship between the characters and the romance that exists between Ken and Chae-hee. Also, Ken is constantly conflicted for being a human who's merging with a demon, and because of that, he's hunted by both sides. All of this, of course, with a good dose of ecchi. Aries takes place in a world fragmented by war, where several kingdoms constantly battle each other and the population suffers from excessive looting and deaths. For children who live in this reality, there is only one option: to fight. For this, several of them enlist to be a mercenary. The story begins with Aries, Michael, and Beruna seeking to become part of the temple mercenary for the chance to get a job that sustains them and can live in this world full of wars. The three boys, although still new among mercenaries, are constantly excelling in battle because of their skills and will to win. After the introduction, the manga mostly progresses between battles, with the plot focused mostly on the group of mercenaries and how each young man lives in the kingdom of Kronos. Although the manga has some hints of being similar to a historical manga, it takes place in a fictional world that tries to resemble ancient Rome. Aries has a somewhat minimalist and kind of messy art style. It is very good at presenting the cruel side to life and how war impacts every person. Don't expect anything other than lots of battle and blood gushing everywhere. Freezing is in a slightly different situation than the others on this list. Although it was created by two Korean mangakas, it was still published by a Japanese magazine. Even so, the traits and differences between the culture makes this work close to a manhwa than a manga, so it will be part of this list. Freezing starts by introducing us to Kazuya and the world where he lives in this universe in 2065. In this universe in 2060-something, there was a great attack by an interdimensional being called Nova. To fight the Nova, the government carried out a genetic experiment on children. Editor put Hitler photos on this. It was discovered that women were able to use some kind of special power with weapons created for each one of these girls, and they were called Pandoras, while the men had the ability of use control skills on opponents and acted as support. That's why they were called limiters. Kazuya is starting his training to become a limiter, but he already has a background with Novas. His older sister, whom he was really close to, was a great Pandora who died in combat. During his first day of school, he sees someone who looks just like his sister and thus begins his interaction with Satellizer L. Bridget. Damn, that's a fucking long name. Let's just call her Bridget. And that triggers several cliches and scenarios that we constantly see in some school romance manga, which brings our protagonists together to become a pair of Pandora and Limiter. Both have ambitions of their own while having to balance their romance and some ecchi and the constant battle with the Novas. The manga clearly takes inspiration from Claymore, For example, with girls having to sacrifice themselves to have some kind of enhancement that allows them to face monsters and also being the main means of combat, and the man having a supporting role. Freezing is full of combat, ecchi, and the panels are oriented as a manga, right to left. But it still drinks a lot from the Korean storytelling styles. Kang is an outstanding student. His beauty is exceptional. His academic life, no one compares. He has an angel-like personality, has every girl in school head over heels, and all guys look up to him. But what if this is all a lie? Zip Ziggy is a fucking funny manhwa where our main protagonist, Kang, doesn't mind doing everything necessary to make sure he gets what he wants. From lying about having faced a gang, or cross-dressing to humiliate his father competitor, or stealing clothes from girls to avoid a fight. His life was going perfectly until Sung-hwe transfers to his school and discovers his hoax. Sung-hwe is a girl super trained in martial arts and able to defend herself. But even so, Kang tries to protect the girl for his own interest, of course. All of this sparks a little bit of hope within Sung-hwe that maybe, even though Kang is pure trash, just maybe he can be recycled. Don't expect a super deep plot or exceptional romance. Zip Ziggy is clearly a manhwa of humor and it's very good at it, so be sure to check it out. In Immortal Ridges, our story starts with Hyuk. He's a boy obsessed with money, to the point of being able to perfectly identify how much money there is just by listening the sound of a pile of coins shaking. But what few know is that Hyuk works various odd jobs to pay his young brother hospital bills. Hyuk's life basically boils down to trying to save his brother even though it seems impossible. Until one day, while taking his brother to the hospital, Hyuk witnesses a fight between what appears to be a demon and a girl. He gets in the crossfire and ends up dying on the spot. The girl feels guilty and sees an opportunity in resurrecting Hyuk, making him an undead. When Hyuk wakes up, he finally meets Sering, who is his benefactor. However, Sering explains that she's come from a place called Chaos, which is where all creatures and monsters reside. And now that Hyuk is an undead, also needs to live there, leaving his brother behind. For Hyuk, this becomes both a blessing and a nightmare, as his newfound powers can hurt what he loves most and seeks to protect. At the same time, he cannot leave his brother alone, as there is no one to take care of him. At the end, everything falls into place when the boy understands that in Chaos he will be able to find a solution to the terrible disease that affects his little brother. It is at this point that the main plot begins to unfold, as the creation of undead is seen as breaking the rules in the world of Chaos, and therefore there will be different factions looking to both ally or defeat Hyuk, because of his power and what they represent. All in all, Immortal Ridges is filled with battle and intrigues. However, there are so many different intrigues and characters that little by little it can become quite confusing. But for those who like a very deep plot, it will be quite pleasing. In Witch Hunter, we follow the adventures of Tasha and his partner Jack. In this world, witches have decided to open war against human society. By having this gigantic magical power under their control, they managed to take 2/3 of the world. Seeing that humanity would end, the remaining realms banded together to create the Witch Hunters, who are a group of humans trained to fight, guess what? Ding ding ding! Witches. Tasha, who had his father murdered by his own sister when she became a witch, decides to leave for the world in search of bringing his sister back. Throughout this adventure, we got to know this world better and the feuds that exist both within the witches but also the Witch Hunter society. Witch Hunter is a very well balanced between humor, action and adventure, reminding a lot of the classic shonen that we find among the traditional manga. And a very close example would be The Gray Man. Veritas starts when Gangryong is about to be beaten up by students of a rival school, when Yu-chan appears and defeats several people at once. Gangryong always sought to be strong, to the point that he challenged several rival schools and tried his best to overcome his limits. But he never imagined that it would be possible to fight several people at the same time and still be victorious. After arguing, begging, and finally going through several different tests to show that he was determined, Yu-chan accepted Gangryong as his disciple. For 2 months, Lightning Tiger, as Yu-chan is known, taught Gangryong in the secret of key manipulation by the way of the enlightenment of thunder and lightning. A Korean martial art that is passed on throughout the centuries, but only one student at a time. Well, kinda like a Sith. Shit, they even use lightning too. By refining and focusing his ki, Gangryong learned not only to become incredibly powerful, but he also received the ability to create lightning attacks. When the 2 months were up, Yu-chan left Gangryong, warning him of an inevitable battle against a strong enemy, and hoping that they might one day see each other again. Months later, Gangryong was contacted by an organization. He was presented with a box, and was told that it contained the arm of Yu-chan, whom they had supposedly killed. These men were from the Reunion, a multinational organization whose the main goal were collection, evolution, and eventually perfection of traditional martial arts. They then forced Gangryong to enter a special school designed to train suitable fighters in the fighting style that they had collected by the Reunion. Veritas has an art style very similar to the Breaker, which helps a lot in battles, making them super interesting and fun to follow, in addition to having several exciting techniques and combats. Don't expect a manhwa with a deep story. It is made to be a shonen completely focused on battle, and if it's that what you're looking for, give Veritas a chance. It is worth mentioning that one of the mangaka from Veritas, Kim Dam-hoon, is also currently working on Hoarding Hell, which is damn good and has a great art. Sunken Rock, who despite having a Japanese publication, was still creating the manhwa style. Its mangaka, Boichi, also created Dr. Stone and Origin. Sunken Rock starts with Ken, and Ken is just a normal kid who always got into a lot of fights during high school. The only thing that maintained him in school was his love for Yumin. When he finally had the courage to declare to her, he found out that Yumin was moving back to Korea. Yumin had a dream to become a police officer, and that's why she couldn't have a relationship with Ken. Ken, without a second thought, traveled to Korea to also become a police officer. But he was never a person very attached to studying, and that dream was gradually becoming more and more distant. Until one day, while drinking in a small bar, some delinquents start beating up the old owner. It was then that Ken exploded and the beating went down. That was when Ken presented to the world his biggest objective, being able to protect the weakest. At this point, some people started to see in Ken a great addition to their group. And that's when the plot starts to progress. Sunken Rock continues to enter on this dark world between police fights with gangs and the question on how far a gang can do good. The manhwa has pinches of humor and a lot of action. But let's be clear, the more the manhwa progresses, the more it becomes like it's seinen, getting more and more serious with increasing risks and responsibilities for each character. It is a great read, especially for those who want a manhwa with humor and action but focused on adults. Well, this is for the top 10. Leave below in the comments if there is any manhwa that is not a webtoon that I haven't talked about it and why it is so special. For more content on anime, manga, and manhwa, click on the subscribe button and see ya weebs!